Well, good evening. Hello, everybody. Mic check. 1, 2. Check, check. Yeah, okay, it sounds good. Everything good? Yeah, all right. Let's see. Got a good microphone. Seems like it. Check, test. 1, 2. Well, good evening. Hello, everybody. Mic check. 1, 2. Check. Alrighty. Hi, Judy. So good to see you here tonight. Eric Myers is in, as is Gary D. All you folks down there where it's warm. It's 37 here tonight. We'll hang out here for a few minutes, wait for a few more folks to get connected. Get my tea over here where I can get to it. Thank you, Gary. So, hope everybody had a good month. We had a really goofed up month. It was really weird. You know, October is usually fairly dry around here, but we got almost 2 inches of rain last month. And it really impacted my ability to do a lot on the truck camper. I did get a bunch of stuff done, but I didn't beat the snow like I wanted. And of course now it's too cold. I might get a couple of days late this week where I can actually get out and do some work, but it's too cold. I can't really work with the urethane or the silicone or the lap sealants that I want to work with when it's 40 degrees. It just, doesn't work. So I'm going to probably get a little bit more electrical done. I could do that when it's cold, but it's pretty much getting to the point now where I'm not going to be able to do much on it. Tonight I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about seams and seals on RVs. It's been the top of my mind here recently because I've been working on the seams and seals on the truck camper and thinking about it's the seams and seals that caused the damage to the truck camper. And if you've been following that build, you probably know what I'm talking about because you've seen all of the damage that was caused by water leaking, which frankly with a little bit of preventative maintenance probably could have been prevented. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that. And then of course your questions are always welcome. You can put them in the chat window, or if you're shy you can email them to me, trbolin@gmail.com. And I'm usually pretty good about getting back to folks. Pretty fast. Sometimes if I'm busy or something sometimes slip through the cracks and I might not get right back to you, but eventually I will follow up with you. I did meet another fellow that's got an S&S that he's working on. He's up in California there somewhere, not sure where. But yeah, he picked up, I think he said he got it for free off of Craigslist. Hi, Two Feathers. So glad you could join us tonight. And so yeah, I gave him a little bit of advice here and there, hoping that he's not going to do any kind of major rebuilding on his. He was just trying to get it sealed up and then use it as it is, and so why not? Yeah, Gary, not a bad call. It is a good idea to seal all the time. All right, just hang in here for another minute. I think we're getting a few folks connected now. Excuse me. But let's talk about the difference between a seal and a seam. Seals are typically manufactured. They're made of flexible materials, like rubber, silicone, and they're usually designed to close the gap between two surfaces. if you have an RV with a slide out, there's going to be a flexible rubber seal that will seal that surrounding around the outside seal. It will seal the slide out to keep the weather and the bugs and the wind and the dirt and everything out while the slide out's out. And when it comes in, there'll be a seal around the face of the slide out, and that will seal against the surface to seal it up. Usually that's the way they work. Versus a seam is like a corner, or where two pieces of metal come together if they're overlapping. And they're also on the roof, where the roof meets the sidewall, and they're around doors and windows. The thing too is that doors and windows also have rubber seals. So you may know that in your window there's a seal in the slide, and that helps keep the window, from rattling to start with, but keeps it airtight, watertight, dirt proof as much as possible, those sorts of things. And the same with your door. There's going to be a rubber manufactured seal around that door. When you start to talk about resealing an RV, or at least inspecting an RV's seals, let's talk a little bit about how that works. Over time, seal integrity, exposure to UV, ozone elements will cause the rubber seals to harden, crack, or shrink. This compromises their ability really to provide an effective barrier against moisture, drafts, rain, whatever you want to, whatever they're preventing from coming into your vehicle. To regularly maintain those is pretty simple, and I only recommend you use 100% silicone when you're maintaining your seals. Okay? Spray some 100% silicone on a rag and wipe every seal down. On your windows, you can take a little bit of silicone and a Q-tip or some other kind of a swab, and you can dunk that Q-tip in a little bit of silicone, just spray it in a little dish or something like that, and scrub down in the seals from your windows. So open your window as far as it'll go, and then clean out those tracks where the seals are. You can clean those out with soap and water as well, and you can spray them with silicone. Just keep in mind that when silicone gets on a surface, it doesn't hurt it. Okay, it doesn't hurt it. But if you plan to do something later down the road on that surface, say paint or something like that, maybe put up wallpaper, or I think mostly painting comes to mind, that silicone will still be on that surface unless you really scrub it off extremely well. And so you want to watch where you're putting that silicone. That's why I say spray it on a towel, use a Q-tip or something like that to wipe those seals. The reason I say use silicone on rubber seals is because rubber seals have a fair amount of silicone in them, and that keeps them supple and flexible. And that's what you want that seal to be, is not hard and cracked, but supple and able to seal around that surface, whether it be the face of the door, the bottom of the window, whatever the case may be. So regular cleaning is important. Take a damp rag with a little bit of dish soap, Dawn dish soap, any kind of a mild soap would work good, but Dawn dish soap, Joy, whatever, just use some dish soap, and wipe down all those rubber seals. Do that at least once a year, maybe more often if you tend to camp in very dusty environments frequently, or you travel and drive in dusty environments. Again, to condition that seal, use silicone. 100% silicone, that's all you need to use on it. Don't use WD-40 or any of these others. Just use 100% silicone. CRC has a good one. So does Liquid Wrench. Yeah, Liquid Wrench has a decent silicone. I would recommend either one of those. Also, regular inspection is really important. Even with the best of care, the seals can wear out or get damaged. And generally, if they do, you can find them online, and they're really not that difficult to replace. But if you're regularly maintaining them, you should not have to replace them unless they get damaged for some reason. Also, a good idea when you store your RV for extended periods that the storage area is free from, excessive moisture. If it's out of the sun, that's even better. Using moisture absorbing products inside can help considerably, especially if you're in a humid climate. And then the last thing is don't use the petroleum-based products. Sorry, I got a throat my frog. Because it'll actually degrade the rubber. So avoid petroleum-based products like WD-40. I mean, WD-40 has some silicone in it, don't get me wrong. But it also has some petroleum-based products like naphtha and some of those things, which is not good. So yeah, just take a quick look at them about once a month. If you're using your RV, walk around, just look for visible signs of wear, any cracks or gaps. And regular inspection is really recommended because you're going to get used to what's there. And if you see a change, then you're going to be able to recognize that. If you're only doing it once a year, you're not going to remember what that seal looked like, last November. So, anyway, regular inspections are a pretty good idea. Every couple of months, you want to check the seals, make sure they're still flexible. It shouldn't be crumbly. It shouldn't feel hard. Those are the things to watch for. Especially focus on your doors and windows because those are going to get used frequently and the seals might wear out faster. Corners and slide outs, the moving nature of the slide outs, of course, can put stress on seals in the corners. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those. Let's talk about seams now, because on the roof, a seam is where two things come together, like a roof vent going through a roof, a corner that has a piece of molding on it. That is a seam. And those usually have some sort of lap sealant, a caulking-like substance, and or butyl tape, which is also a caulking-like substance, except that it's just thick. It's thicker than, lap sealant or something like a caulk. And the butyl tape is typically used under the flanges of your doors, your windows, anything that pokes through the roof, anything that penetrates the roof. Usually we'll have lap sealant under the flange. That's hard to inspect because on your roof, the edges of those flanges should be covered with lap sealant. And lap sealant is a caulking-like substance, but it never hardens completely. It will skin over, but it stays flexible and pliable. And so when you're checking your roof and you're looking at your seams on your roof, the lap sealant's what you're going to want to check. And it should be soft and pliable, so when you touch it, it should feel soft. It shouldn't have cracks in it. It shouldn't be pulling away from the surfaces. It should be, sealed nicely to the edge of the vent that you're looking at or at the seam at the edge of the roof. Keep in mind, though, when you climb on your roof, please know the weight limit of your roof. Check your owner's manual. It'll say, this much weight is acceptable on the roof. You want to be careful when you're crawling around up there because a roof on an RV isn't built like your roof on your house, and you could go through it or cause damage. So keep that in mind. Always have a good sturdy ladder. Never work alone. If you have to, a piece of plywood, quarter, 3/8 plywood, big enough that you can kneel on it, is helpful to put on the roof to help spread out some of the weight, depending upon your size, of course. We're not going to point any fingers, but Yeah, you want to be careful when you get on that roof. And then the other thing to keep in mind too is that the roof of your RV might be 10 or 12 feet in the air, and so you want to keep an eye out for like overhead electrical lines, stuff like that. So when you're looking at those seams and the sealants, the lap sealant that you're going to find around penetrations through the roof, you want to watch for cracking or splitting. Of course, that's visible lines, the splits in the sealants. That's caused by UV, extreme temperatures, age, those sorts of things. But even the tiniest crack can let moisture in, leading to potential major damage. If it's discolored, the sealants will change color over time, often turning, a yellowish or brown. And that's caused by extended exposure to the sun, contaminants, aging. As I said, lap sealant doesn't ever really set up, and if it is firm, it needs to be replaced. Hardening or brittle texture, we've kind of touched on that. If there are any gaps or it's separating, you want to watch for those. Also watch for black, green, or white specks. That could be signs of mold. That's a problem. So the mold can compromise the seal's integrity, and it's also not good for you. Of course, the obvious internal signs, water damage, stains on the roof, mold growth, especially around windows and doors. And if your seams are bad and you're in a humid environment, then basically you're letting more moisture into the RV, and that could cause significant trouble. The thing of it is not all the signs of wear are going to be very apparent. You need to have consistent and detailed inspections. And that's important because that will help you, as I mentioned, recognize when a seal or a seam is worn or has started to crack and needs attention. Regular cleaning, dirt, debris, and contaminants should be removed using a mild detergent and a soft brush. UV protection, there's some UV protectant sprays out there. I think that's overkill. Just use the silicone. You'll be fine. If you're going to have to replace the seals, if you have to replace the seals, that's not a lot of work. It's tedious, and you can find the seals online. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but what I have found is that when I was looking for seals to replace the seals in the windows in my truck camper, it took a little time, but I think I found everything but one seal. And I hope I've got a line on that now, but I've got the winter to research that. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the types of sealants. We talked about butyl tape. We've talked about lap sealants, but we haven't really talked about silicone and or urethane and or acrylic. Let's start with acrylic. You should probably never use acrylic sealants unless they're specifically designed for RV use on an RV. Okay? Acrylic sealants are not designed for the flex and the movement that an RV has when it rolls down the road or when you're living in it. You mean, think about it, somebody crawls in the RV, it moves, it flexes, it moves, so it's constantly moving. And acrylic sealants are designed for a house that doesn't move. All right? They're not really designed for an RV, so I wouldn't recommend acrylic sealants unless they're specifically designed and say specifically for RVs. What you will find is butyl tape, as I've mentioned. It's excellent for flat surfaces like windows and vents. But urethane is extremely popular, and it is very robust and durable. Not only is it a sealant, but it often acts like an adhesive. So keep that in mind because it can be a bugger to remove if you have to in the future. And then, of course, silicone sealants. They're very flexible. They're water resistant. They're good for areas with less movement, but silicone and lap sealant don't mix. Okay? You can't put silicone over lap sealant. You can't put lap sealant over silicone. For me, this is my recommendation. Anywhere that uses lap sealant, I would not use a silicone sealant, period. What you will find used on RVs and where they use silicone frequently is oftentimes you'll find a little bead of silicone up and over and around doors that go in through your RV. So, like compartment container doors and stuff like that, the doors for your electrical access or your water bay. Oftentimes, you'll find a little bead of silicone, and what that is that's just to help spread, bead the water off so it doesn't give it a chance to sit on top of that seam and seep in and weep in. Even with the butyl tape underneath that seam, if that water sits on there for a very long amount of time, it could eventually penetrate in and cause some damage. And so most RV manufacturers will run that really teeny fine bead of silicone, half up the side of the door, over the top, and a half down the other side, and that helps keep that water moving away and not sitting at that point between the door and the wall of the RV. That's where you'll find the silicone. Everywhere else, you should probably not use silicone, in my humble opinion. The last thing I want to mention is there's some areas you really want to pay special attention to. The roof. The roof is most likely the place where water is going to penetrate into the seams and seals and cause problems. Because think about the roof, it's flat. It gets rain on it, it gets water on it. It's going to hold that, especially if you're in a cold climate where it's moist, damp. It's not going to evaporate fast. You're going to get that water standing on that roof all the time, long periods of time. The longer that water stands on the roof, the more chances it has to seep in through a crack or around a seam or a seal and cause water damage. And trust me, water damage is a huge pain in the rear. Okay? I have a friend of mine who has a fifth wheel that 3 or 4 years ago he mentioned to me he thought his roof was leaking. And I said, well, we could fix that for you. I'm not afraid to do a roof. I've done, I did the one in my Class A. A couple of weeks ago, he says, hey, let's do my roof. And I says, no, I don't think I want to now. Well, why not? Well, it's been 5 years since you first mentioned that to me, and you haven't done anything about it. So you're going to have a whole, crap ton of rotten wood, and you start pulling stuff apart. That rotten wood is there. You start to try to put it back together. You can't get screws to grab. It just opens up a huge can of worms. And so in most cases, and this is what I told the fellow that was communicating to me last 3 weeks or so, sorry, was don't open a can of worms. Okay, don't start removing stuff. Don't start, try to do the minimal amount of removing of stuff as you can. Because you're going to have rotten wood, and then you're not going to be able to get it sealed back up because you're not going to have anything to screw into. So it's best to leave sleeping dog lay in that case. But the roof, do not ignore the roof. I know it's difficult to get up there. If you're not comfortable getting up on that roof, take it to your RV shop and say, hey, do a quick inspection on the roof seals, would you please? Windows, doors, and storage compartments also put, your RV at risk for water leaks, but not to the level of your roof. Slide outs oftentimes can be leakers. You think about a slide out and how much it weighs, and after it moves in and out, things are going to start to shift around, and so the seams and seals may not be completely good and tight, and so it's a good idea to check those. The last thing I want to mention is if you decide to replace the sealant, and it's not a bad idea if you have an older RV, if you have a lot of sealant that's really cracked and really damaged, is to remove the old sealant. In this particular case, I'm thinking of the lap sealant that's around the seams around the roof, and then replace it with new. Okay. On lap sealant, you can definitely cover over it. That's not a problem. So if it's not severely damaged, then you can go back over it and reseal it with lap sealant. But if the lap sealant is pulling away from the roof of the RV or from the edge from the wall of the vent or the roof, whatever the roof penetration is, and remove it and replace it. You're going to want to get a plastic scraper. Don't use metal on the roof. Okay, use a plastic scraper. You're going to be less likely to damage your roof. That's especially important if you have a membrane style roof, TPO, uh, any of those, EDPM type roofs, rubber roofs. A good plastic scraper is all you're going to need. Some rubbing alcohol and some clean cloths. Gently scrape away all the old loose damaged sealant. Clean the area with some alcohol. Make sure there's no residue left. Get a good clean surface and then apply new sealant. And you should be good to go. The last thing I want to talk about is the elastomeric tape. I was watching a video the other day, no more roof maintenance. No more roof maintenance. So they went from, this roof had the roof was peeling up from the edge. So to come out of the way that they had it pinned down is there's a trim rail up on this and it holds the roof down. Anyway, and it was peeling up. And so what they had done is they went in and they got some elastomeric tape and they taped that seam down. Okay. Well, yeah, it's going to seal it up. But the thing about elastomeric tape, it is horrible to remove. I used it to seal up a leak that I had on my Class A, and it took me almost 3/4 of a day to get the stuff off that roof when I was replacing it back in 2018. So, could use elastomeric tape as a last resort. Always try to use a lap sealant or a urethane. I highly recommend urethanes. Now they're much more expensive, but they're also a lot more durable and a lot more flexible. Let's go over to the chat here. I've been chatting along here for about 20 minutes, and that was kind of the plan. And then we'll come over here and check up on the chat, see who all's here tonight. Two Feathers says, the next time I do it, I'm going to tape it off so it's not messy. Yeah, and I don't fall off. Yeah. Yeah, Flex Seal, I don't know, Tom. I'm just not down with the Flex Seal. I know you did it, and it seems like it's holding up for you. But I don't... I've seen some of the results of Flex Seal on a couple of RVs. And I've used a Flex Seal before. I mean, I have a can of it. I turned up in the garage the other day. I used on something. But I don't think the Flex Seal is, I just don't think it's the way to go. But I'm glad it worked for you. Yeah, tips on getting the old caulking off. Yeah, Scott, it just takes a lot of elbow work. And like I said, a plastic scraper works best. That way you won't damage the roofing material. And use some heat. Tom's right. Get a heat gun. I'll have an episode coming up if you're following the Truck Camper series. That should be coming up in 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks, where you'll see me removing butyl tape and sealant. And I've done heat with a heat gun. Works great. Scott says, my roof got hit pretty good with hail. A lot of dense insurance has written the trailer off, but I have an option to take a payout and keep the trailer. If I keep it, is there a good option to cover the whole roof? Is the roof metal now, Scott? Question mark. I'm guessing it must be if it's got dent problems. But what I would do is I would take all of the vents off and I would put TPO or EDPM or a Brightech type of... okay, cool. Of membrane on it. That's what I would do. I think, it's going to show the dents. That's not important. What we're worried about is those dents could turn into leaks, and that's what we're worried about. So, that's what I would do. There's the paint-on elastomeric paints. Henry's Brightech, Henry's Tropicool. There are others. Flex Seal. Tom loves Flex Seal and has sworn by it. And like I say, I just don't think Flex Seal. It looks like good stuff. But I just think there's better products out there that are designed for RV roofs. I think though, Tom, were you going over the fiberglass? Did you have fiberglass roof, Tom, or did you have a rubber roof? Question mark. But that's what I would do, Scott. Is I would just take and remove all the vents, and for about $400 or $500, I would replace it. I would just cover it up with a TPO or an EDPM membrane. And that's a good point. And like I said when I was talking about my buddy's roof, leave sleeping dogs lay. If it's not leaking, if leave it alone. But be sure and double check around the seams and around where the roof meets the wall. 2 roof vents and not leaking. Okay, yeah. I would check very close. Okay, fiberglass, that's what I thought. I would check very closely around all of the seams. Okay? That would be where I would look for leaks, particularly in impacts that were right on the seams. Okay, because that could, an impact on the seam might deform the metal and allow a leak to develop there. So that's where I would look. But yeah, if it's not leaking, it's just ugly. I don't know if I would do anything with it. I'm just thinking here for a second. Oh, it's half past. I should do my selfish plug commercial. If you found value or if you like this, give me that thumbs up. I always appreciate those. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe. Ring the notification bell. I'm pretty sure most of you folks are subscribed, but if you're not, just go ahead and do that subscription thing for me real quick. Visit over to my website at trbolin.com. Is always greatly appreciated, as is your support through Amazon or RecPro or Renogy using the links in the video description. Remember, I'll get a small commission, but you pay the same price, or you'll get a discount. I've also got a couple of exciting things coming up. I've got a couple of new sponsors. One of them is RV'ers. They are a Chinese manufacturer of tools and equipment. I'm testing some of their stuff right now. Look for videos on that. And then also, I had a company called Strikehold reach out to me and send me some product to try. And I've been using it on the truck camper restoration. It's a product that was developed for the U.S. military, and they use it to clean weapons and aircraft things, and it's a very fine cleaner. It leaves a non-corrosive, it helps with corrosion. It leaves a nice aliphatic type of a coating on it. It's not oily or sticky. It does repel water very well. I've been impressed with it. It doesn't do everything, but it seems like it's pretty good stuff. And so those will be things that are coming up here in the next 2 or 3 weeks that you'll see up on the channel. Let's see. Tom cleaned all the old sealant and recoated with Flex Seal White. Did you replace all the lap sealant around your seams, or are you trusting the Flex Seal? Because I sure as hell wouldn't. Anyway, okay. Yes, acetone is a better cleaner for old sealant, provided you're not cleaning it off of plastic or rubber. If you're cleaning metal, then it's fine. I used it. I've used gallons of acetone cleaning up the truck camper, but it's all metal, and I was repainting. So but acetone will melt plastic and paint and rubber, and it's a great cleaner. I totally agree with you, Tom, but it has its place. That's why I recommend alcohol if you're working with your rubber roof. Just rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol works really well. Of course, if you have questions, you're welcome to throw them in there. You removed all the lap sealant and you only put Flex Seal on. That's brave. That's not. I wouldn't do that. Um, okay. So if there are any questions out there, be sure and throw them in there. I guess I'll catch you up a little on the truck camper. I'm about 7 weeks behind right now as far as what you're seeing on the truck camper restoration is stuff I recorded back in September. Um, for those of you that are on the live stream, then you're going to find out that I didn't get it done this year. I just ran out of window. Plus, as I was mentioning at the intro, it was a really strange, wet October. We had a couple of inches of rain. We had rain for 2 or 3 days in a row. And November started out that way too. It's been rainy off and on since last Thursday. Um, so that makes it really difficult. And now the temperatures are low enough that I only have an hour or two any time during a day where the temperature are warm enough that I can use the sealants and stuff that I'm using. I'm using a lot of urethane. It has a working temperatures. I think it's 41 to 104 or something like that. The lap sealant, it could be used, but it's better if you use it at 60 degrees than 40 and stuff like that. So I'm just a little bit stalled out. Uh, what is hard to get off is the elastomeric tape. It's also urethane is also can be difficult to get off because it's such a great adhesive. But it does come off, and then it will lift with acetone or another adhesive remover. But urethane, I'm not going to be taking this camper apart. It's going together forever, and it will be that way until I get rid of it. And then it'll be somebody else's trouble, right? But yeah, urethane is difficult to remove. And in fact, the seal system I'm using on the truck camper is from Dicor, and it involves using an elastomeric tape and what looks like a silicone, but I don't think it's a silicone, a clear sealant type. And that stuff, I was out working. I had a chance to get out and do a little bit of work on it the other day. The sun came out, and I was itching to get out and do something on it. But the stuff, it hadn't quite cured yet, but man, it was sure sticky, and it was a cure time of 5 to 7 days. So I'm sure it was a urethane-like sealant. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever remove the seals or have to do anything with seams, hopefully. Yes, I have to tarp it for winter. And in fact, it is tarped. It is. And I was using Sikaflex 221 truck technician. And it is urethane. Yeah, I read what you meant, Tom. That's funny. But yeah, Sikaflex, I used 221. And that stuff is good. Yeah, I'm not. It's not worried about. I'm not worried about it coming off. I'm worried about it staying sealed as you move down the road. The problem I had with the Flex Seal that I used was it was peeling up at the corners. It was peeling up at the edges, and if it's peeling up at the edges, then that means that there's some failure going on there, and that means that there could be some moisture getting in there. It may work real well on fiberglass. I wouldn't use. I wouldn't use it on metal. I don't know. It's Fords and Chevys, right? I mean, we've talked about this in the 2.5, almost 3 years now. It might be 3 years now that I've been doing live streams. How long have I been doing live streams? It's been at least 3 years. Let me just go. I'm just curious now, but we talk about this a lot. Ford, Chevy, Spartan, Freightliner, Workhorse. Uh, you know, Urethane Sikaflex versus silicone. You know, it's kind of all your personal preference. Um, at least it is for me. So let's see. This is live stream number. I'm just curious. While I'm here, and I got just a minute. This is live stream number 116. And I started doing these live streams a little over 2 years ago, September 14th of 2021. I think Flex Seal is just liquid silicone. Yes, it is liquid silicone. Hold on, let's see. As I have a tube of it right here. Yes, it is polyurethane. I don't know, can you read this? So I used a lot of this. All right, let's see. Just looking for any more questions. If not, then I think we'll probably wrap things up here shortly. I did mention, I think I mentioned it last month's live stream, but I just got back the hard drive I sent out that had all of the retro on the road on it. I had a recovery, protection plan on it, and I just got it back, but I didn't get everything off the hard drive. And so now that winter's upon us, I'll have some inside the house projects that I'm going to be doing here. I got some work to do in the basement. I've got some things I want to do up here. I might actually get around to starting a kitchen remodel. Now that lumber prices have come down, they're not, through the roof like they've been the last couple of years. I want to remodel my bathroom, the master bath. It's actually the household bath. This is a smaller house, which is what I wanted, something easy to take care of. But I got a bunch of house projects that you'll probably see some videos on once I run out of truck camper content, which probably will be, let's see, I'm guessing we'll probably get through January of 24 before I run out of truck camper content. Oh yeah, the Onan overhaul. That's interesting. I was just talking to. Oh no, is he on? No, I don't think he's on YouTube. A fellow that I met in Ocotillo Wells, California. I guess it'd been 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, something like that. 2019, 4 years ago. And he was doing his own generator. He was rebuilding it. His was using a bunch of oil. And what he turned out is he had a bad set of oil rings. So I think he's got his back together and is running. All right. Last call. Any other questions tonight? Did everybody go vote today? If you have any kind of voting going on, we had city council. We had a high school here catch on fire last spring. Burned up, like the band room, the cafeteria, the gym, a bunch of stuff. So they had a bond for that. That's all we had. KZB official, I'm having trouble finding the same size framing wood. What do you mean, KZB? What size wood is it? It's not 1x, that kind of stuff. Yeah, parts are not cheap, boy, is that true. But you what are you complaining about? You're the guy that has airplanes and boats. You're used to spending a lot of money on stuff. Everything is smaller. Huh. Okay, well, yeah, 1x2. That's what you would expect. I mean, that's what 80% of the framing in my truck camper is 1x2. And yeah, and really 1x2 is 3/4 by 1.5, right? Let's see, where did I see that? The planers, okay. What do I think of hanging self-leveling silicone for lap sealant after a silicone main sealant on something like a roof end? Silicone on silicone, absolutely. Silicone on silicone is good. Lap sealant on silicone, no go. Silicone on lap sealant, no go. But yeah, silicone on silicone, that should work perfectly. Tom, now you know I'm broke. You've got expensive habits. Derek Meyer says, good excuse to buy a table saw. Two feathers, you can always cut a 2x4 1/2. Yeah, I need to get a table saw. I've been thinking about getting one. I've been watching the auctions. There's a company here locally that, it's like auction garage sale type stuff. People that don't want to have a garage sale can take stuff to them. They charge them a premium. They charge the seller a premium. They make 10% on everything that sells and stuff like that. In fact, that's where I got the truck camper, was on this auction site. But so I've been watching it for a decent table saw. All right. Anything else tonight? Okay. So if in January, not next month, because I am booked up, but starting in January, is there interest in me going back to a weekly schedule? Please say yes or no in the comments or in the chat window. Starting in January, we would go back to a weekly schedule. Good night, Tom. Okay, thanks, Tom. Yeah, silicone on silicone, perfect. I wouldn't worry about it, truck technician. KZB, I've been thinking about your issue. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be 1x2s for sure. And you don't have to buy expensive 1x2s. You can just buy strapping, right? I mean, it's not, this is not precision construction. So, I didn't buy any, like number one material. I bought strapping from basically all my stuff. Trucknician, yes. Two feathers, yes. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll let you know next month. We will get together on December 5th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and that will get us through the year. And at that point, I will make and let you know if we can start back up with the weeklies. We might be able to do that. All right, well, I think we're going to call her good for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And we'll see you in December. Until then, take care. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Why next week? We'll not be meeting next week, Tom. We'll be meeting the next time on the 5th of December, which is Tuesday, first Tuesday in December. And then after that, I will let you know whether we start to meet weekly in January. I think I'd probably do it. I'm thinking I might take a class, and the class schedules hasn't come out yet. They should be out anytime. And a lot of times they offer. A lot of times I wasn't taking the classes because they conflicted on Tuesday nights. Yeah, I know too. It's all good. We didn't have as we haven't since I went to monthly. I totally admit that we haven't had as good a participation, and I mean, it's okay. I um, just had other stuff that I'd like to do. Okay, good night, truck technician. Good night too. Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up and talking and KZB. Old wood better than the new wood. Yeah, well, probably true, but probably not in the last 30 years, since most of the wood that we used in the last 30 years has all been farmed. It's southern white pine that they can grow a whole crop in 30 years. Okay, good night. See you guys.